Now, Super Bowl 59, we've got you covered from all sides. Jeff Darlington with the Chiefs all week, while Sal Paolantonio is on the Eagles. We want to spend some time today talking about the moves these teams made in the offseason that led them to New Orleans this week. Let's start with the biggest move of the offseason, Philly landing Saquon Barkley. Sal, tell us more there.
Well, there were two moves made by the Eagles in the offseason that paid off big. The number one was Saquon Barkley, brought in as a free agent by general manager Howie Roseman. In my opinion, the number one free agent acquisition in the NFL in the last 25 years. His impact has been immediate, and his impact has been long-term, both in the locker room and on the field. You can't really calculate how much he has meant to the team, but you have to go beyond the numbers and see what kind of leadership that he has brought to the football team. And then linebacker Zach Bond, brought over on a one-year contract as a situational pass rusher and special teams player, and winds up as an all-pro linebacker, led the NFL most of the way in tackles, now leading this Vic Fangio defense, number one defense in the National Football League, led by a linebacker position, running back, linebacker, both undervalued for years by the Philadelphia Eagles, paying off big time here in Super Bowl 59 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And with those Kansas City Chiefs, my friend Jeff Darlington. What do you got, Jeff?
Well, listen, Sal, as crazy as it sounds, there is a case to be made that the Chiefs wouldn't have gotten here without a rookie in Xavier Worthy, a wide receiver who they acquired, by the way, in an intriguing way. A trade from the 32nd pick overall to the 28th with, of all teams, the Buffalo Bills. Now, what makes Worthy so valuable to this team is his willingness to learn the entire route tree this season. Not an easy thing for a rookie to do, especially in this Chiefs system. Offensive coordinator Matt Nagy saying that basically he loved the maturity and the patience that Worthy brought to this organization throughout the season. They wanted him to take his time, recognizing that as a Chiefs wide receiver, it is as important to be ready for the postseason as it is to be prepared for the regular season. We have seen his target share go up. He is popular in the locker room. The team loves him. And by the way, most importantly, Patrick Mahomes trusts him. As a result, Worthy expected to play a very big role on Sunday in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Laura?
it's been fun, Jeff, to see that trust develop over this season. It's bumping in there with Darlington and Sal. We love to see it. All right, the Chiefs' offense is nothing like it was the last time these teams met in the Super Bowl. Statistically, Kansas City went from the highest scoring and most efficient red zone offense in 2022 to middle of the pack at best in 2024. But worth noting, the Chiefs' scoring defense is improved this time around. Different teams, certainly, although some similarities. Let's start with Kansas City. Mina, how has Worthy's role evolved leading him to this point?
I loved hearing Jeff talk about how he has developed his route tree over the course of the season, because you see that play out on the football field. Beginning of the year, Worthy was just vertical threat, stretch the field, clear outs, and then gadget stuff. But as the year went on, you saw him become a different player in this offense. Shallows, quick outs. Those are the primary routes he runs, and they're really important for the Chiefs in terms of how they attack man coverage in particular. First part of the season through week 14, Travis Kelce was the leading target share getter versus man. Since then, it's been Worthy by a lot, a significant amount, and that's going to make a big difference in the Super Bowl, because if the Eagles do play a decent amount of man coverage, as I expect they will, Xavier Worthy might end up being the pivotal player because of the development we saw in the second half of the season.
I felt like Andy Reid and Matt Nagy had to sort of reimagine everything that Xavier Worthy was supposed to be. I think when you see that electric 40 time at the combine, you think to yourself, okay, we're going to stretch the field with him. But we also have to remember that that was supposed to be with Hollywood Brown, also Rashee Rice. And as the year went along, I don't necessarily know if it was about learning the entire route tree or being allowed to run the entire route tree. They learned that he could be a run after the catch guy, explosive in the run game and jet sweeps, and also someone that they could put on the move and use in man-to-man coverage to not only give them the indication of what's being played, but beat the one-on-ones, not just deep down the field, but into intermediate and short areas of the field as well. And I think Xavier Worthy has taken advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, we heard Sal Powell bringing up the Saquon side of things. Marcus, how has he changed things in Philly?
Yeah, Boogie, his home run ability is number one, and obviously that's what stands out the explosive plays. They don't have a lot of red zone productivity because Saquon is always hitting these long runs as we have Xavier Worthy. But Saquon is who we're talking about. Listen, the other part of this as well, in baseball, they try to bring pitchers in that match up with batters, hopefully to create mismatches. In the NBA, they try to create pick and roll to get a big to guard a small and let the speed and the blow-by ability to take advantage of that matchup. Saquon is that. He's a look changer as well. They can use him to determine and dictate to defenses, not just in the run game. He's also devastating if you want to get him matched up on linebackers in the passing game as well. The one unsung thing he's been doing this year very well is protecting when blitzes are coming and picking up those things. But it's just so many things you can do with him. And not only does he change the numbers for you defensively before the snap, he forces you to play certain personnels and certain looks based on his alignment.
I love that point about his pass protection, because in the championship game in particular, he had a couple moments in blitz pickup, that were integral in terms of protecting Jalen Hurts, and obviously that's going to be huge in the Super Bowl. I think when we look back on this acquisition, because I agree with Sal Pal, this was the acquisition of the offseason, the way I'll remember it is this. The Eagles, who have historically not invested in running back, realized not only was there value to be found because of the devaluation of the position, but this was an area of strength that they could make even stronger. They already had an excellent run game. They already had a dominant offensive line. Adding a dominant back to that equation made their run game as explosive as most teams' pass games. And I think when we look to the offseason next year, that'll be something we'll look for with other teams that have similarly good offensive lines.
GM Howie Roseman just pushing all the right buttons all the time, it seems. Reminder, the Chiefs have not allowed a running back to go for 100-plus yards this season. The Eagles' defense led the NFL this season in many things. First in efficiency, yards per play, pass yards per game, and first downs per game, just to name a few. The Eagles also allowed their fewest pass yards per game since 1998. That was also the same year that Jalen Hurts was born. Woo! All right, Mina, how different is this Eagles defense from the version that we saw in the Super Bowl just 2 years ago?
You know, going back and looking at that defense, the thing that jumps out is how much pressure they got, right? That pass rush had so many sacks, and they were arguably the best four-man rush in the NFL. This defense, however, is more complete. And there's a stat that I think captures that, which is how they rank across the league in EPA per play when they don't get pressure. So back in 2022, when that defense didn't get pressure, they were 24th. This year, not only are they the best defense in the NFL in EPA per play, they are the only defense league-wide with negative EPA per play when they don't get pressure on the quarterback. And what I think that reflects, guys, is the complete transformation of this back seven. They are fast. They are physical. They are disciplined. They don't bust coverage. They arrive at the football and they limit yards after the catch. And I would argue this defense, this transformed secondary linebacker group, is actually a better matchup for this version of the Chiefs offense that leans on yards after the catch. So I think this whole transformation from 2022 to now actually works in their favor for this Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And, you know, you look at those statistics that Mina showed, we have to remember that Hassan Reddick absolutely played out of his mind that year. And he had so many pressures and so many sacks off of his side of the ball. I believe that this team is also better rushing the middle of the pocket than they were versus Kansas City the first time, which we know you have to be when facing someone like Patrick Mahomes. You want to get pressure in his face. But I love the way that they're built from a coverage standpoint on the back end. They play everything top down. There's always sticky coverage. And also linebackers play so well as they match their zones in the underneath coverages. And so you're thinking about some of those mesh routes, some of those scramble to plaster plays that Patrick Mahomes can make. I believe that this team is uniquely designed to protect against that. And think about this, Darius Slay and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson were both there in their first matchup. But look at the upgrades in the other positions. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, also Reed Blankenship, and the way that Zach Bond plays the pass as well, I think that this team, as Mina says, is better prepared to face the Kansas City Chiefs. I also believe that they're a team that could create plays better than the team that faced the Chiefs in 2022.
Yeah, I listened to all of that you all said, and you're exactly right. The one thing that stands out with Philly's defense is the ability to tackle in open space. And RC, you mentioned Zach Bond. Not only his ability to tackle in space, but the volume. If you look at, and I'm gonna have a tape when we get there for Super Bowl week about how each unit, those particular guys protect other guys. They play as a unit. They don't care about statistics. They don't care about who makes the play. It's about funneling the football and making sure the play is made, lining it down, and playing it again. We've all known for a long time that Vic Fangio likes to keep everything in front of him, but it's different when you're keeping everything in front of you and the D-line is in direct unison and the linebackers understand how to fit off of each other and not just the D-line. And to your point, RC, that secondary with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship, two safeties who I believe communicate at a high level, but also protect their guys when they're in man-to-man. It's a really good defense.
I feel like we buried the lead a little bit by not mentioning the difference Vic Fangio has made in this defense. And I think it goes beyond the X's and O's and what he's done schematically. How many times did we turn on the tape last year and see a lack of effort to the football, missed tackles, also not understanding pursuit angles, what your leverage is, how you can approach the football when we're talking about going long stride to short stride. It seems like he really got this team locked down on the fundamentals and on the basics of playing defense. And when you can do those things, run to the ball, be extremely smart in your pursuit angles, and be physical at the tackle, that is the way you create turnovers, but also you create a culture.
I mean, the NFC Championship was a perfect showcase for what you're describing, Ryan. All those forced tumbles, those hits, punching the ball out, those weren't accident. Those weren't lucky. And they were the product of a season-long emphasis on physicality in terms of arriving at the football and taking proper angles. Now, that said, the Chiefs' ability to get yards after the catch and scheme the guys open and get them leverage is different from the Commanders. It presents a much stiffer challenge. This is a strength-on-strength matchup. But what we have seen from this Eagles defense all year long, this transformation prepares them for this game.